welcome to the Mission Kind podcast. My name is Dana Lucy, and I am your host. On today's episode of the Mission Kind podcast, I am so honored to interview Sahana Kumar, the current Miss California volunteer. Her S.E.R.V.E. initiative is gearing up, STEM to success, and with that, she has visited schools and organizations such as Girl Scouts to educate the youth about STEM while participating in interactive activities with them. Her medical work in pediatrics involves a lot of compassion towards her patients and being kind every day. Please welcome Sahana to the Mission Kind podcast. Hi, Sahana. Welcome to the Mission Kind podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself to the audience? So who are you and what do you do in your personal life and as Miss California volunteer?
Of course. Hi, y'all. My name is Sahana Kumar. I am a second-year medical student in real life and a graduate with a degree in engineering from Johns Hopkins University. Aside from that, I have the honor of being Miss California Volunteer 2025. Miss California Volunteer is a scholarship organization with a focus on empowering young women to fearlessly pursue their dreams. And I have been so lucky to grow with them and also be able to promote my service initiatives, which are centered around helping kids find a passion for science and STEM. So I've really loved the work I've gotten to do.
That is very cool. As Miss California Volunteer, what is your community service initiative and what makes it special to you?
So my service initiative is called Gearing Up. And like I was mentioning earlier, Gearing Up is based around helping kids find a passion for science. And I'm obviously very passionate about science, but I think that's because for me, that started really, really young. Both of my parents are engineers. Of my grandparents, I have two grandparents who are engineers. So I grew up with science like really well integrated into my life. And because of that, I never thought of science as worksheets and formulas that I had to solve. I thought of science as something cool and a way for me to explore the world and explore my own curiosity. And that made it really satisfying and fun for me. I got to be really hands-on with it. But I know I'm very lucky to have so many engineers in my life. Most people don't get to have that. And so I really wanted to share that with kids who don't really have the resources or the ability to pursue those opportunities themselves and help them find out that science can be just as cool as English and history and all of these other subjects.
That's so cool. So on your Instagram, I saw you've got to visit quite a few schools with your title already. What do you do when you visit the schools?
So one of my favorite things to do is I designed this series of, 20 science experiments.
Wow.
And I love to help the kids do these hands-on experiments. And that includes everything from these giant foaming explosions of elephant's toothpaste to building a circuit out of an LED light and copper tape in whatever shape they want to maybe setting up a bottle rocket. And there's something for every age. It's always really fun. We have a great time.
That's so cool. So can you share more about how kindness plays a role in your service initiative and does it influence the way you connect with others?
Absolutely. I think every single time you go into a school or a community, you see the kids who are really eager to participate. They feel really comfortable. And then there's always that kid who is a little bit reclusive. And sometimes they're just quiet. Sometimes they can be straight up a little bit rude and they really don't seem to want to be there. And I've learned that it's those kids who need the kindest the most. They need you to keep reaching out because whether it's something as benign as just having a bad day in school or something more serious like they're being bullied or they don't really feel safe, it can mean so much for them for you to reach out and get them involved in the activity and make sure that you can't fix every single thing about their day or their life. You're meeting them for maybe a couple hours. But what I can do and what I like to do is make sure that they have one really fun experience that they could go home and tell at the dinner table or go home and think about at night. That I had this fun experience and I had someone today who looked at me and saw me. As Miss California Volunteer, that's always my goal. There are so many people that I only meet for a couple minutes, and I want every single person who meets me throughout my year to say, she looked at me and she really saw me. She really listened to the things I had to say. She cared about what I had to share. She found one good thing in me to comment on, whether it's that outfit really brings out your eyes, or you have the best smile, or you have such a cool job. Thank you for sharing about it with me. And that's been really special for me.
That's so inspirational. Are there any exciting events coming up related to your service initiative or with Miss California Volunteer?
Absolutely. The biggest event that I'm really, really excited for right now with Miss California Volunteer is actually heading out to Jackson, Tennessee in just a couple of weeks to see my teen queen compete. Reese is competing at nationals, and I am so excited for the entire nation to see our girl shine. Because if you've met Reese, she is just the most incredible person with the biggest heart. And I truly think that America would be so lucky to have her. And we are so lucky to have her. So I can't wait to go cheer her on, and I can't wait to go meet my 49 new sisters. One
That's
of
so
the coolest things
exciting.
about this organization is that sisterhood aspect.
Hmm.
As far as my S.E.R.V.E. initiative, I have a couple school visits coming up and I'm very excited about them. One of my favorite things to do is go to schools for like science fairs they're hosting or science days and get to talk to them about what I do and why it's so cool because science is so cool. I love it. And
That's
so I love
amazing.
getting to go and talk to kids about why I have the coolest job in the world because I really do.
That's so cool. And I'm so excited for Reese. I got to meet her at the California Volunteer Pageant, and she's the sweetest.
Yay, she is the best. I cannot wait for her. She's going to do so great.
In pageantry, you must embody grace and confidence, but where does kindness fit into that?
I really think that kindness is the heart of pageantry. When you think about the role of a pageant girl, right? A lot of people will tell you that it has so little to do with those moments of confidence on stage, but it has everything to do with the face-to-face interactions that you have.
Mhm.
As a title holder, you serve as a role model and a standard for your community. You are someone for little girls and little boys to look up at and say, like, I want to be like her when I grow up because she's kind-hearted and because she makes me feel seen and because she makes me feel included and warm and she's inspirational. So our entire role kind of revolves around kindness and the ways that we can be kind to others and through our kindness bring them into our fold. That's what makes pageants relevant today.
Wow, that is so true. How do you maintain the competitive sides of pageants while showing kindness to your fellow contestants?
I really think that at the end of the day, my personal mantra with competing has always been to run my own race.
Hmm.
I'm not competing with any of the other girls, even though it feels a little bit like it because we get scored at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all so different, right? Like, if they were looking for my first runner up, she's a very different person than me. And if they were looking for her, they were never looking at me. And I really had to embrace that mentality of like, if I'm not picked, it's not because I wasn't good enough or because I should have like tried to tear down this other girl. It's because they were never looking for me and who I am. The only thing that I can do is show up as the best version of myself that I can possibly be. And if that's what they're looking for, they'll find me. And if that's not what they're looking for, then it's not my day today. Delilah Sitchmiller, our previous Miss California teen volunteer, liked to tell us that God will either bless you with it or save you from it. And there are definitely titles and years that I've been saved from because there were bigger and better plans for me. There was a different path that I needed to take. And there are titles that I've been lucky enough to win because they've given me the most beautiful experiences. So I truly do believe that everything happens for a reason. There's a plan for me, and not always smart enough to really understand it all.
That's so true. And that's a really good way to look at it. I actually, when I go into another pageant, I'm going to look at it that way. Do you think kindness is promoted in the pageant community, especially within the California volunteer system?
100%. I remember when we first walked in and we had our like first meeting. We'd taken our pictures with Mary, we put our stuff down, and we get called into the auditorium to have our first meeting. And one of the first things that our director said to us is like, hey, one of the things I value here and one of the things I think is most important is the relationships that you will build with each other. And so like the thing that matters most to me is that like I don't want drama at my pageant. I don't want any of that. And I think pageants can sometimes get a bad rep for that.
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't personally been my experience at all. I love the girls I'm competing with. I am heading up to LA, actually Miss Los Angeles County, this Saturday to watch a whole bunch of them compete and cheer them on. I think we build such close, strong bonds, and I'm really grateful for that.
That is so true. I don't have any siblings myself, so the bonds that I've built with my title holder sisters, and you're a sister, and everyone's a sister because pageant community is just all sisters. It's truly amazing.
The best.
So you're being scored in a pageant for evening gown, talent, and that kind of stuff, but how does kindness contribute to your success as a title holder?
I think that when you talk about like what a pageant girl is meant to do and what a successful title holder is, successful title holders are built on building our brand and building the impact of our organizations and building what people think about when they think about our organization. So, like for me, I think that so much of my job as Miss California Volunteer is to build what people think about when they think of Miss California Volunteer,
Mhm.
which means that so much of my job is to make sure that when people think Miss California Volunteer, because I'm probably the only Miss California Volunteer they'll ever meet, they
Mhm.
think, okay, she was so warm and so kind and cared. And that is really like what I try to leave people with. In addition to that, like I really think that your heart is what shows through an interview. Your heart is what wins you titles. Like interview is the biggest score in nearly every pageant system, right?
Yes.
If it's not the biggest score, then it's certainly like what most judges go on. A lot of judges pick their winner in an interview, and if you don't like really, really blow it on stage, you're
Mhm.
their winner. And so if you nail interview, that's so much based on your heart. I think it's really, really hard to fake something like kindness. I think you can really, really tell when someone genuinely is and when they're really not.
I can tell you're genuinely a very kind person.
Well, that means very much to me. Thank you so much.
As someone pursuing a career in medicine, how do you see your platform as Miss California Volunteer influencing the way you approach kindness in healthcare and your community?
I think this was so important because, like, the type of medicine I want to do has always been pediatric medicine. I want to be a pediatric surgeon. And so, when you think about a kid who's going into surgery, there's the medicine part of it. We want to make sure we're super prepared for that surgery. We want to make sure that kid has all the right medications and has done all of the right things and is totally prepped and ready to go in. But then there's the emotional part, right? Like, no matter what age you are, getting surgery is a scary thing.
Mhm.
Even if it's a 15-minute procedure to remove a tiny little like mole on the back of your leg, or if it's a 10-hour open heart surgery, it's scary to go under and know that someone's cutting open your body, even if it's to fix it.
Mhm.
And I think that because of that kindness and being able to help out someone feel a little bit more comfortable on what is the worst day of their life is so, so important. Because in medicine, I see everyone on the worst day of their life. And some people, the worst day of their life is, oh my God, like my brother got hit in a hit and run and died on the spot. And some people, like I had a little 7-year-old girl, the worst day of her life was finding out that she had to go under for that 15-minute surgery
Mhm.
and get this tiny little like mole on the back of her leg excised. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was her worst day, and that still meant something. And I think that, especially as a medical student, but as a physician as well, the most important thing that I can do for my patients is make sure that when they come in, they feel warm and they feel supported. And that's not really based on how good of a surgeon you are because no one really knows that, right? Like when you go to your doctor, you don't know if they're the best cardiologist in the world or the worst.
Yeah.
But what you do know and what makes you feel comfortable and confident and safe with them is if they were kind to you, if you felt safe with them, if you felt supported. And that has nothing to do with how good of a doctor you are and everything to do with how much you're able to make someone feel like you really understand that this is such a hard day for them, but you're there to hold their hand through it. It
Wow.
is the honor of my life to walk in and see patients on the worst day of their life and hold their hand through to the other side. Because after that worst day, there's another day that's not quite so bad. And it's really like the best job in the world to get to see people through that transition.
Hmm. That is really inspirational. And I was wondering, did something specifically inspire you to become a pediatric surgeon?
Always loved kids. My little sister, when she was born, I was 4 and I got to cut her umbilical cord. And at the time, I immediately decided on the spot that I wanted to be an OBGYN
Mm.
because in my head, all OBGYNs did was hang out with babies all day. And then eventually I found out that wasn't true. And I was like, oh my God, you have to hang out with adults. I don't want to do that. But I'm the oldest granddaughter on both sides. I'm an older sister. I've always loved kids. I babysat. I did inpatient pediatrics through college. Like, this is just what I love. And so I knew I wanted to be with kids, and I really love that critical care aspect of medicine.
Mm.
Some people love seeing their patients over and over and over again and really building relationships. I'm not like that. I want to see you once, and then I want to never see you again. Like, I want you to go home and get better because no one wants to be in a hospital. And so I really like that acute care setting where like I help you, I treat you, I see you for post-op, and then most of the time you're better and you get to go live your life, and that's the best thing in the world to me.
That is really amazing. So you're going to be competing for the title of Miss America Volunteer, right?
Yes, I
That's
am.
so exciting. If you win the title, how do you plan to use your platform to spread kindness and make positive impacts in not just your community, but throughout America?
Yeah. I really believe so strongly that there is nothing in this world like a face-to-face connection. And so half of how I want to spend my year as Miss Volunteer America would be traveling and really making sure that I am meeting people face to face and building those connections and building our brand and building our footprint as an organization that truly and fundamentally values kindness and service and giving back. It's in our name. We're Miss Volunteer America. We care about service. We care about girls who kind of put aside their egos to do whatever that it is that needs to be done, whether that's stocking shelves for Salvation Army or talking to an auditorium about an anti-bullying campaign. We do it all. And I really, really love that about our organization, and I would love to spread those values.
That's amazing. And I wish you the best of luck when you compete.
Thank you so much.
Outside of your pageant life and medical career, how do you practice kindness in your day-to-day life?
I have always thought that, like, the measure of success in a person is if every single day when you go to bed, you know that there is one person's life who's just a tiny bit better because you were there that day. And sometimes that's listening to a friend, and sometimes that's seeing a random person in a grocery store and complimenting their outfit or their smile. It's little things. But I think small acts of kindness throughout a day are what defines a life well worth lived or well lived. And that has always been the thing that matters most to me.
That's amazing. In a world that can sometimes seem unkind, how do you encourage people to keep being kind?
I think that the more you give people grace, the more you encourage kindness. Like, it can be really tempting when someone snaps at you or is unkind to you to snap back, right? Because they're making their bad day your bad day. But I've learned that the best way to encourage someone to be kind is to respond to every interaction, no matter what it is, with kindness and with grace and with empathy as much as you can. And that's maybe easier said than done. There are definitely days when it's hard. But I think that the best thing you can do is truly, like, lead with kindness. And I think most people will follow.
Definitely. And last but not least, if you can challenge our listeners to do one kind thing today, what would it be?
I would say try to make a stranger's life like a little bit better. I'm a really shy, introverted person, and one of the things I've tried to challenge myself to do, after a friend actually told me to do it, was every single day I want you to compliment one stranger on something, whatever it is. And it helped me a lot with how introverted I was, but it also helped me learn to center kindness in my life. Because whether it was getting on an elevator and giving someone a random compliment, or just trying to strike a conversation with the barista making my coffee, I learned a lot about getting out of my shell and learning more about the community I live in.
That's very nice. Thank you so much for being on the Mission Kind podcast.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you for listening to the Mission Kind podcast. Join us next Monday for another amazing episode. Have a great day, and don't forget to be kind today and always.